Welcome to this lesson. In the last lesson, we talked about the game container and we designed it with multiple attributes. So now let's move on to the container that holds the canvases and the new game button. If you can see the index.html, that is the tick container right here. So let me first select this tick container with its ID. So that's tick. So I've selected it. As usual, I'm going to give it a position of relative, and I already told you why that is. In this case, it's also to position the tick container relative to the game container as well as the entire page, not just the entire page. So then I'll give it a margin of 0 and auto to center it within the game container, which is its parent container. Then we need to specify the width and height of the container. But there is a slight difference in here. Remember how I specified the height as 320 in the game section right here? But since the tick container is within the game container, we can't specify its height as 320 as well, because if we do it, it'll overflow outside the container and that'll ruin the design entirely. So I'll slightly reduce the pixels by 2 pixels. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to make the height as 318 pixels instead of 320 pixels. This way the tick container would still be within the game container and its height won't reduce by a lot. And similarly, I'll make its width into 318 pixels as well. So though we allocated 320 pixels in width for the tick container in the game container, I'll just make it 318 so it fits within the container. Now we've come to a part that might be slightly more advanced than what we've dealt with so far. So first of all, let me show you the final product so you can see what we're trying to achieve. So if you look at the final product, you can see here that both the tick container, which holds these two elements, and the rules container are side by side. But that should technically not be possible. Why? Because these containers are both placed within div tags. These are both div tags, and I already explained in the HTML module that div tags take up the whole width of the page. See, that's why the header tag, which is also a block tag, has taken up the whole width of the page. But in here, these elements are side by side and they don't take up the whole width of the page. That's because we've change the nature of these elements. So div element, since it takes up the whole width of the page, is actually called a block level element. Okay, so let me write it down and show you. It's called a block level element because it takes up the whole width of the page. But since we don't want that, we're changing it to an inline block element. Okay, so we're changing the property of this to inline block so that both the elements can be placed side by side. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to use the display property. So with display, I can control how the element is displayed, and the default of the tick, since it's a div tag, is actually block. So from block, I'm changing it to inline block, like this. So now that we've made it an inline block, we need to tell the browser where it needs to go with respect to the parent element. So the parent element in this case is this game element, which is within the section tag. So this is the parent element which holds both of these divs. So these two need to go in different directions so they can be placed side by side. So we need to tell the browser where it needs to go. So we can use the float attribute. Come back to CSS. We can use a float attribute like this to specify the position, as in where it needs to go with respect to the parent. There are only two different float values. There is left and there is right. In this case, we want it to float to the left. So if you can look at the final output here, you can see that within this game area, the stick area is floated to the left and the rules area is floated to the right of the game area. So because of that, we're going to give left in here so we can achieve the same. Alright, now that's it for the tick container. So let's see if it actually changed much. I don't think it would because we haven't done much with the rules. It looks kind of good, I guess, but there's still a lot more to do because it's still stuck here. So we can do that by defining and designing the rules container. So let's start with that. Now onto the rules container. They'll have pretty much the same attributes as the tick container except for the float. You'll see as we go on. So let me go through them quickly. First of all, once I've selected it, I need to give it a position relative. And then I'm going to give it a width of 318 pixels and a height of 318 pixels. I already explained why this is so and why I don't give 320. So I also want to align the text within the container. So that's different from tick, because the rules container is full of text and I want it properly aligned. So for that, I can give text align to align the text and give the value a center, so it's aligned to the center of the rules element. And then finally change the display of the containers to inline block. I just explained why that is so. And then finally the float is going to be right rather than left, because this element is going to be on the right side of the game container. So there you go. That's it. Let me save everything and then let's go look at the output. Okay, good. See? It looks pretty good. Everything is centered and these two elements are side by side. So if we don't select this, it actually looks almost same as the final output here. But there is still the designing of the new game button and this rules areas text left. So we can take care of that in the next few lessons. See you there.